Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Joshua Suliruka here, your host of the Impact Podcast Show. Now, before we introduce our next special guest on the Impact Podcast Show, I'd love to just say two quick things before we get into, introduce our next special guest. The first thing I would like to do is I'd like to say thank you. I want to say thank you to those that are listening to this podcast, either through Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But if you're watching this on YouTube right now, I want to say thank you for watching this. Now, if you are on YouTube, make sure that you guys click on that like button if you guys are getting value, and make sure you guys also comment. You know, one thing we love as part of the Impact family is that we love to hear your thoughts, and we love to see if you guys got any questions. So if you guys have any questions, please put it down in the comments down below. And most importantly, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on that bell button for the latest updates to our next video. So guys, that is the first thing I'd love to say. I'd love to say thank you. And the second thing I'd love to say is I would love to say our mission, and our mission is simple. Our mission is to focus on impacting the one. So if you are being impacted by this podcast, whether it's now or during or at the end, I'd love for you all, and I'd love to encourage you or to share this with someone else that can benefit from this. Because remember, it only takes one person to change someone's life, and that could possibly be you, and that would be cool. But guys, now that I've shared, just the two things I wanted to say at the start, I would love to introduce our next special guest on the Impact Podcast Show. Now, I want to just share briefly just a story about him. He's here. I don't think he's actually ready to listen on to this. He's already received a lot during the week. I know that for sure. But the way that I met him is, for me growing up, I've always played footy. I'm still playing footy now to this day. And I remember, I'm pretty sure it was actually my second year. It was my second year playing at the Parramatta Eels in the Harold Matthews competition, and I actually met him. He was one of the coaches, or he was actually part of the coaching staff at that time, and he actually doesn't realize how much of an impact he's actually made on me. We'll probably learn more as we go through this podcast. But guys, I want to share to you all the reason why I actually wanted him to go to actually come up on the podcast show. The real reason why I wanted to is because I know that he has a story. I know that there's something behind him, and there's always a reason why we do what we do. And I know that there's a why behind the what. There's a reason why he does what he does. In terms of his work, and even just things that he does in life. And I'm excited. I'm really excited to get into it, because as a junior, it's cool to have a player talk to a coach, and just to get a bit of insight on how they are. And just, I don't know, for me, I'm like, I want to get into his brain. I want to see exactly where he's at in terms of his brain. But I also really want to know about his heart. I want to really know where his heart's at, and where he wants to go further along. And so, guys, I'd love you all to make him feel welcome, even though it's a podcast. But I want to make you guys, I'd love to introduce you all, Aaron McDonald, a.k.a. Macca. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Josh, mate. That was quite an introduction, buddy.
Yeah. No, man, I just want to say thank you so much. It's an honor, and I love when I'm able to, talk to people. But most importantly, I'm actually really, really happy that I'm able to spend time, with someone that's actually impacted my life. So I want to say thank you for taking out your time.
Appreciate it, mate. And I must say, it's an honour for me to be on here as well, mate. I've been watching your work for the last year or so, mate, and you disappeared off the scene for a while, mate, after SG Ball, and it's good to see you back out there, enjoying your footy, but also trying to make an impact in the world, mate, which is what we all should be doing realistically.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I actually appreciate it. I think sometimes I don't realise that, people actually see things.
Yeah, mate, no, there's a crowd out there that are watching you.
Yeah.
Mate, and it's just it's awesome to see. We spoke about quickly off air earlier, but to see you, chasing your dreams and doing that, because that's what we need to do. We need to, whether it's in footy or in life, relationships. We need to chase things, and we need to work hard for the things that we want in life. Yeah, no, 100%. And I think even that, like during this, for those out there that are listening, I know that you guys are going to get massive value, and I know that what Macca was talking about. I know that he's going to be giving you guys immense value throughout the course of this podcast. But Macca, is there any chance that you could possibly introduce yourself and just share a bit about who you are? Yeah, no worries, mate. Obviously Aaron McDonald, mate. I suppose firstly I'm a husband and a father. You know, and two pretty important roles in my life, and ones that, you know, probably mean the most to me. Yeah, as well as that, I you know, coach a bit of footy, so I've been blessed enough to be coaching footy for the last 15 years or so, and during that time have coached a couple of good sides along the way, and some decent level of football, which has been great. Get to meet plenty of young athletes, and sometimes some older athletes, trying to help them, I suppose, achieve their goals. You know, and then and I also, my full-time gig is a school teacher, so I'm leader of mission at a Catholic school. You know, so work every day at, I suppose, trying to teach young people, you know, not only about curriculum, but about life skills and about how to become a better person. And then, you know, with that as well, I've got my own little business, Amplify Coaching Collective, where I do the same kind of thing. I work as a mindset coach and as a team coach to try and improve people's lives, and you know, give as much value as I can to the community.
Yeah, I love that. Honestly, the one thing I love about the introduction is that it was very clear and it was very concise. I know that we actually have a lot of people that jump on and they just share, which I love, and it just allows me to pull things out. But the good thing about you is that you're very clear. You know, you're very clear and you're very concise on the way that you speak.
I think there's a few I suppose distinct different aspects of my life, but they all join together. You know, like you know, I suppose I got into coaching footy when I finished playing, because I was a teacher and I loved helping people. You know, so I got into coaching juniors at Wenty, so probably one of your biggest, I suppose. You know, and had a couple of good years there with the junior system before I you know, once again was pretty blessed enough to fall into a role with New South Wales Cup at Parramatta, and you know, a couple of years there coaching some, you know, I suppose semi-professional athletes and, you know, some NRL players and some future NRL players, you know, and then from there, you know, just due to family and some other things, I've suppose chosen a different path along the way and hit some junior teams up, you know. So, but you know, all with, I suppose, the idea of just trying to, you know, I love your motto, you know, that idea of making an impact on one person's life, and that's probably been a big driving force for me, just to try and help people along the way, and you know, whether that be through sport or through school or through my own coaching, just try and you know, make people better people, I guess, is the biggest factor there.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That is totally amazing. I love the fact too that you mentioned about impacting one, because that is our motto, that is our mission, and I know that that's something that you had resonated you know, with the Impact Podcast show. But my question to you is why? You know, what's the reason why for you when it comes to impacting the one?
Yeah, I suppose firstly it probably comes from family values, you know, and you know, once, you know, also I'm blessed enough to have a really you know, awesome family that I grew up with, that you know, led me to be the person that I am today. You know, my mother and father were both heavily involved in community, you know, and in our own church, you know, and probably instilled those values with me of, you know, I suppose for me, the Catholic social teachings, the idea of everyone having human dignity and trying to really look at that and respect that, and therefore, you know, to try and help people along the way. I actually remember buying a clock for my mum for Christmas, you know, probably when I was about 14 or 15, and it had a nice little quote on it that talked about the idea of people not remembering the fancy car that you have or the house that you have or anything on those lines, but people will remember if you make an impact on their life. And that probably stuck with me. Even though it was a gift for her, it probably stuck with me in terms of that phrase. And certainly, you know, my mission each year is to make an impact on one person's life at school. And I feel that if I can, you know, change a young person's life and help them out along the way, then, you know, my job is done, you know, and I try and do that as much as I can.
Yeah, honestly, it's so amazing. It's actually so amazing to see that there's people like yourself who is actually embodying, you know, our mission. And it's funny because we don't ask, you know, we're not asking people to do it. Like one thing that we were talking about before, like off air, before we started this podcast, was like just naturally being present, naturally just being there, and building relationship. And you know, that's I'm guessing that's something that you can relate to.
Yeah, I suppose building relationships probably one of the biggest ones for me, and I think you know, both at school and probably in the sporting arena with coaching as well, is I certainly like to think that I have a good technical knowledge of the game of rugby league, for example.
Yeah.
But I also think probably my greatest gift in coaching is the relationships that I build with the players. Try and make sure that they're a team and that they individually know that they're respected by me, and that I suppose it's a bit of a cliche, but that idea of playing for each other and playing for your coach, and that doesn't happen unless you have a really good relationship with people. And same in the school, when I'm teaching, I try and, base my teaching on building those relationships, because when people trust you and when people know that you're willing to be vulnerable with them as well as allowing them to be vulnerable, then, that relationship is better. And they when you're happy and comfortable, you work harder, and I think that's, one of the things that I've learned along the way is that, if you can give a little bit of yourself, and sometimes give a lot of yourself, then you get back more than you could ever ask for.
Yeah, no, that is totally on point. Like I've learned that as a player myself, and actually being being coached under you, through the Parramatta system, like I felt that I could, even though I was young, even though I was like a 15, 16-year-old kid, I could still understand those that were actually there for me. And actually there to build a relationship with me. It wasn't just for footy. It was actually like life in general.
Yeah, and I think that was the big thing. I like thinking of me as a coach and as a teacher, and is that idea that I've got people's back. You need to be able to show people that you genuinely care about them. And one of my greatest I suppose rewards in both teaching and coaching is having those people who 5 or 6 years later remember those relationships, remember those friendships, remember those little things that you did for them that maybe you don't remember yourself. But it's made an impact on their life, and they've become a different person because of it. And if we can all go out there and do that and impact on people's lives, then the world's going to be a better place.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's something that I fully believe in too, is that, if we can at least like just focus on impacting one life out there, and then for it to actually become like a domino effect, then we'll be able to, impact more lives rather than, I think, the reason why I would say I'm so passionate about our mission is because we live in a society where everyone's just wanting to impact like the many. They're wanting to impact the crowd. They want to be doing, the best they can to seek some sort of significance, or, feel the need to, feel the needs of the demands of other people. But for me, it's like, me personally, I'm always about focusing on one life and being intentional. I think that, like we were speaking about it before, that's pretty much the whole sole purpose behind building relationship, is just really focusing on that one.
Yeah, and that's just the idea of being present. In those conversations that you have, and and I think we live in a society where we get distracted so easily, and I'm not going to claim to be perfect. I my phone way too often when I'm talking to people, and spend time on my phone when I shouldn't be. But that idea of just being present to people, and I mentioned earlier that idea of being vulnerable too. Of sharing a little bit of your story and showing people that you're human as well. I think, especially like, as a teacher and a coach, and they're probably, they're realistically the same thing. Like, there's no difference other than, in one situation in a classroom and the other situation on a footy field. But, that idea of, being vulnerable and allowing people to see who you are, and being present with them while you do that, then that builds the bonds that then allow them to open up to you when they're, having a bad day, or, not feeling the greatest. And, for me, that idea of someone, being willing to give me a call, who I used to coach, or, a student saying, can we have a chat at lunchtime or something, because they're not going, very well at the time, gives me, that's what lifts me, that idea of, they obviously trust me enough that I can then have this conversation, and I might not be able to fix the problem, but if I can point them in the right direction or give them some advice that'll help them out, then then you really are making that impact, and you're helping people to get through the things they need to get through, and be a better person. And it's probably hence why I went into my own coaching business as well, was that idea of there are so many people out there that need I'm banging the table here. Sorry, I just shook the whole thing.
No, it's all good.
That need someone in their corner, and and when you have someone in your corner and you have someone who's willing to guide you and give you the tools you need, then you can take on, the things that are in your life with a bit more, I suppose, certainty that you can achieve. And that self-belief is just massive, and the resilience that you can help with people build, allows them to, go out there and then make their own difference in the world.
Yeah. Yes. 100%. And like, that's something that I've been impacted by yourself, the things that you're doing in me. And even though it was only for a short period of time, it was only for, I think, a year or so, me being in the Harold Matthews season, at Parramatta, like I was able to be impacted by you, but it only took like 1 year. Whereas there are people out there that I know that are being impacted by you through school and through coaching. And the cool thing is, right now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to get into a place where we're actually going to have Aaron speak about his story, because the one thing that I believe in is before the glory, there is always a story. And I know that Aaron has a massive testimony and a massive story that I know that he's going to be well and truly, free and just give like immense value to people, to those that are listening, but also to those that are watching. And I'm actually excited too, because I want to know his story. I'm such a curious guy, and I'm actually wanting to know more about you. And so I guess the first thing I want to do right now, I want to kind of flip it up, and I really want to focus on you. I know that you're a coach, and I know that as a coach, your main mission is to focus on the client. Now, right now, I want to be your coach, and I want to focus on you. So, I guess the first thing I would love to ask you, Aaron, is how was your upbringing? Could you share a bit about your upbringing?
Yeah, mate. Look, I one thing will say, like I had a blessed upbringing. Mum and dad. Probably a rarity these days, mate. Absolutely loved each other, and we had a really great example of unconditional love shown to us from an early age. Two older brothers who both played league as well. So I was the youngest and got bashed around a little bit, I suppose. But it was and once again taught me some great life lessons. And my brothers are two of my best friends today. It wasn't always the case when we were younger, that's for sure. But and went to a Catholic primary and high school. And look, I had a really good life. Have a really good life, I should say. Didn't have. And I suppose the values that were instilled in me probably helped me to become the person that I am. And I probably saw some things that outside of my family that showed me the real world, I guess, a little bit. Whether it be through footy or through schooling. I was at a school where let me just try and put the right words on it, but it was run by a Catholic system where there were some things go on there that probably shouldn't go on in the Catholic Church. Yeah. And we had a really tight community, and it probably got destroyed a little bit because of that. And that probably led me to question my faith a fair bit, and probably drew me away from the church for quite a while. Really, that was probably a fairly large impact at a young age. Some friends who were affected by it, and probably shook me up a little bit and made me question whether God was real, and asked some questions about whether if God was real, then why would He let these kind of things happen? And it took me a long time to realise that it had nothing to do with God and a lot to do with some people who just had some very messed up ideas on what life was about, and probably their power a lot more than they should have. So met my wife. Probably met her the first time when I was about 16, and we the year after we finished high school, we began dating, and I've been with her ever since. Probably once again, lucky there to find Lauren at the right age. Played a bit of footy. Was never a superstar, but that probably I think has helped me become a better coach because of it. Certainly was never the first picked in any rep sides or anything on those lines, and and then went to university to do teaching. And kind of the rest is a little bit of history. But I suppose part of the story, I suppose, if you're talking about it. So one of my big passions is mental health and looking after people's mental health. Which probably drew me towards a few players in our side back in the day that now we're struggling a bit. And probably one of the reasons for that is seeing my wife struggle massively with bipolar. So she soon after we got married, suffered with what was classified as depression at the time, fairly badly, and for a couple of years was really struggling, and hard, I suppose, as a newly married man to sit there and go, why can't I fix this? And why is this an issue? And this should be the happiest time of our lives, and I've got a wife who's depressed, and that was pretty hard to handle first up as a male, I suppose, and some very, very bad stereotypes there, I suppose. You should be able to fix it, and you're the man, so that means you should be able to fix it, and how can this happen? But learned very quickly that that's not the case, and mental health is a condition that affects 1 in 3 people in Australia at some stage in their lifetime. So. And then we were blessed with our son just as I was starting to probably kick off my coaching career with Parramatta, and soon after Lauren got sick really in I shouldn't say sick, she suffered some postnatal depression and was hospitalised for quite a while, so that probably changed my priorities a little bit in regards to coaching, and also made me think about, well, how can we equip people with the tools to deal with this? Because we just don't have it. Like the health system, as much as they try their hardest, we just don't have enough people. I work in a school now where we have full-time counsellors that are overbooked. We've got reading mental health professionals to try and get them to help people, and there's a 2-month waiting list. So we need to do something massively in our society to try and change this, and I suppose that was part of the story as to why that's been a big passion, and why why I want to make an impact on people's lives. Because I really think that people need someone they can trust, someone they can talk to, and if I can be that person for as many people as I can, then I will be, as well as finding. And I shouldn't say finding time, as well as ensuring that my family get more time than they need. I've got 3 young boys, mate, who I want to make sure know that they're loved unconditionally, and I want to make sure that they know that their dad has their back all the time, and that if anything ever goes wrong, that they can come to me. And I post about it quite often, that idea of you need to put the work in when they're young to make sure that happens. So. Schools do their best, mate, and I'll never bag schools out for what they do, but we can't do everything, and I think that's something that society needs to understand as well. Like schools' curriculum is so full with so many things that I like to think of as, that's probably a parent's responsibility, and we do our best to try and get there, but at some stage, we need to put the work in at home. We need to put the work in with our peers and our friends and our families to make sure that everyone is equipped with the resources and understands, that when things go wrong, that they can talk to someone, and I think that's probably, one of my main messages is that, who's in your corner, and if you know who's in your corner, then go find someone to be in your corner. And I also just think we need to, as adults, make sure that we're doing the best we can to look after, everyone else in the world. That's about it, mate. That's
that's amazing
story, and there's probably 1,000 offshoots of that in regards to coaching and teaching, and why I got into coaching was just simply I got bashed around too much playing footy, and I thought I don't want to do this anymore. So I had a season, I think I was about 26 or 27, where I fractured my eye socket. I got hit pretty late, and got a metal plate in my head, and went back, and I was actually we're at Parra Park doing actually the week before we're at Ringrose training, and I tackled a tackle bag very lazily and dislocated a finger, and I remember talking to the coach at the time, who just said to me, Macca, do you want to do this again, really, mate? Like you're just getting injured all the time. And I said, yeah. And then the next week we had we're at Parramatta Park doing the hill of Parramatta Park. I'm sure you remember the amphitheatre there, mate.
Oh, no.
Lots of fun, mate. And,
oh, yeah.
I think we ran from the start of Parramatta Park round to the amphitheatre, which is probably about, a K and a half, 2 Ks or something. And we got to the bottom of it, and I just looked up at the amphitheatre and thought, I'm going to be here for another hour and a half running up this hill, and I don't know if I really want to do this anymore. Like, it wasn't fun anymore. And I just turned to the coach at the time and just said, mate, do you need a trainer? And he's like, yep. And I said, I'm done. So I retired that day, mate. Never played another game again. And just started getting into coaching. And it was very much about, just trying to help some young people out at first. I was coaching down at Winnie and teaching at Greystone. So I was coaching some kids that I was teaching as well, which is really good because you're ready to form those relationships. And was lucky enough to have a couple of probably future NRL stars in the side, mate. So I think in that side we had Taniela Lasalo and I think Kenny Seo might have been that side or the year after. And and just starting to, I suppose, develop some young players and put them as they go through their career. And that's the biggest buzz for me is seeing someone who I coached, playing on the big stage, but even just going down and seeing them play locally, having someone give me a call and say, hey, Macca, I'm playing over here on the weekend, do you want to come and watch, kind of thing. And seeing those people just chasing their dreams and getting to do what they want to do. So that was where the coaching started. Mate, teaching for me, once again, like my dad was very community focused and out a lot helping in the community and probably set a really big example for me for giving to other people. And mum, same thing. Like, mum worked in a charity organisation for a lot of her life. So when I was, I suppose, getting to that serious stage of trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life, I had a couple of years off where I travelled overseas and went to America and worked over there doing some summer camps. And that's probably where I got that love of, helping young people out. So from there, again, came back to Australia and had the paperwork filled out to join the Crops, actually. Had all the paperwork filled out and was about to send it off and just thought, I don't want to go away for another 6 months, and leave my, that stage, my girlfriend, behind after I'd already left her for 2 trips to America. She was a very patient woman and still is. But it was probably the time to not do that. So I decided to be a PE teacher. That was the first part of my teaching career. And then from there, at one stage there, Lauren got pretty sick again, so I left the school that I was at as PE teacher and went closer to home to take up a PE religion teaching job. And I've always liked to say that God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
And 6 months later, the person who was my boss at the time, so the religion coordinator, was leaving and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Look, I think you'd be really good at this." It's an all-boys school, and she was like, a young male role model who's a footy coach, who the boys love and respect. Why don't you look at doing this? Because I think you can make an impact. So at that stage, I moved over to full-time religion teaching and obviously leading the department as well. And that's been an absolute blessing, to show. Look at some of those boys that have come through there, and a few of those boys are, playing some decent levels of football now, as well as some lower levels. But we had a good crew there who, probably saw that, as a male you can have a faith and not be afraid to show it. Society where, as you know, Josh, you mate, faith is often seen as something that you don't talk about. Certainly don't talk about in the public domain. So it's been really good to let people know that you can have you can be a footy player, a footy coach, whatever, and have a faith, and it's not it's not something to be ashamed of, and something to be celebrated, and also the strength from it, which is probably where the big thing for me now is that's probably where I get a lot of my strength from, is that the faith that I have, but also the ability to converse with God and unload your problems on Him, and find the strength to do the things you need to do in life.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh man, like, I can just listen to you for days.
Yeah, about an hour, I think. So yeah. But that's probably like the story part of it, mate. And then like it's probably like with teaching, there's probably 1,000 stories of kids who you notice who needs something extra, and, there's probably, and I can probably tick off, most years where I think, I've made a real difference in that kid's life and that student's life. And that the one who, like the one who might not have a father at home, the one who, may not have a positive male role model, or the one who may not have a teacher that they can turn to, and just building that, that trust and relationship with them. And, there's nothing better than seeing a kid in year 9 who's, struggling massively and can't figure out what to do in their life and where they're going, and they might have some issues outside of school, but then you see them at their year 12 graduation, and they're a different person, and you think, mate, do you remember back that time in year 9 when you didn't want to do this anymore, and you didn't want to beat school, and you hated life, and look at you now, and that's only in 3 years. Imagine what you're going to do in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
And it's certainly one of the greatest blessings in that is, then 5 years later get an email and say, hey, I'm getting married, or, this has happened, and, you might not realise if it was that conversation you had with me in year 9 or year 10 that, got me to the stage that I'm at today. And if I can do that each year, if it's one kid I can do it with, then mate, I'll die a very, very happy man.
Yeah. Oh man. 100%. 100%. Firstly, I need to acknowledge this. I wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I was just listening through, and I'm like, man, I can literally resonate through what you're talking about. And some of the things that I pointed out from what you're just saying and sharing your story is you're brought up in a family that was all community focused, focusing on helping the people and going out there, and it's crazy to see that for you, you don't, in generic terms, you don't have that very struggle in terms of your upbringing, but still you're able to make an impact and change people's lives.
Yeah, it's amazing, mate. You hear, we get motivational speakers in at school all the time, and
100%.
and you hear all the stories of what made people who they are today and all the rest of it. And look, I'm not going to say that my life is perfect, but it's pretty close. I had an awesome upbringing. I've got, as I said, 2 brothers who are really good mates of mine. Who influence my life daily. And I looked up to them as, I suppose, as role models when I was younger. I now turn to them as really good mates, to discuss our lives and what's going on. I have 3 young boys who I absolutely adore. A loving wife, and like I said, we've had our struggles. Lauren's had her struggles with her health. But we often refer to ourselves as Team Mac. I don't know if you have seen that, but we build our life on that idea of being a team. Much like we did when we were at Parramatta or whatever. That idea of having each other's back and helping each other out. It's the glue that keeps, I think, society together. That idea of supporting each other. And making sure that you're willing to give of yourself. It's funny. I was listening to a podcast earlier today. Hayden Knowles, who works out at Penrith Panthers. So I coached him at Parramatta, and Hayden's is a great bloke, and he's got his own podcast. He's the State of Origin, and I think Australian trainer. He's done it all, mate. But he was talking about Usain Bolt and Brad Fittler as 2 people who he respects highly and who probably embody the word respect. And he was saying, both of those people give more of themselves than you would ever expect from people in those positions, and because they give so much, they get so much back. And the reward is the respect of other people, and not that you're out there doing things to try and get the reward, but when you give of yourself, you get back. People want to give back to you, and that's what it's all about. If you can help other people along the way, give something of yourself, then those people become those lifelong friends, those lifelong influences, and I look at, the side that you talked about, Joshy, and there's probably not many people in that side that I don't have some connection with still today. You know, like be just a random Facebook message or whatever. But most of those boys in that side, you know, and some who have gone on to achieve some pretty good things in the game, you know, still find the time to make those connections because you've built that at an age where they're impressionable, and you invest in them before they become, you know, bigger than anything. And you know, and the good people will remember that. You know, they remember those people who invest in them. And you know, I always think, you know, like if I run past someone, you know, in the street in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, who I've coached or who I've taught, and they just go, you know, "G'day, Macca, how you going?" Then I'm happy, because obviously, you know, they have had enough of an impression of me that they actually want to make contact with you and want to talk to you. Yeah. You know, rather than that teacher or coach who you walk past on the street and put your head down and keep walking.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, I was just like, you know, when you were sharing that, I was thinking about, you know, some moments in my life where I actually responded and I actually reached out, you know, to the certain men that have helped me out. You know, I'll never forget my coach, you know, going through high school. Even till this day, you know, even till this day, I'm thinking about, man, I can't thank him enough for that. And so, like,
who coached you at Westfield? Who coached you?
Oh, so I was at Fairfield, actually. Okay, I was actually at Fairfield, yeah. So I had Elias.
Mm-hmm.
I think by the time you had jumped on, he jumped on the system. So when he jumped out, yeah. But yeah, he was my coach at Fairfield, and you know, our school wasn't as, you know, sporty, but when he came in, he just changed. He shifted the culture of our school. Like, our school was like, you know, was a school that, you know, had like fights, brawls, you know, that's what we're all called about. But he came in and he literally, like, you know, reshaped, and it was all based on relationships. You know, like he was all solely focused on building relationships, and that's how he ended up getting us. And like, I wasn't your troubled kid, but my brother was, you know, or like my mates were. And so for him to kind of shift them and be like, you know, there's so much better that you can do, like, to me, it's still an impact on my life. And so, yeah, I truly agree to what you're saying in terms of, you know, reaching out to the kids at a younger age. And I also feel like they're a lot more moldable. You know, they're in their moldable season. You know, at a young age. Like, for me, you know, I'm grateful enough to choose, like, make the choice to become moldable. Because as you get older, you actually really become fixated on the mindset. And I know that me working with, you know, older people, it's actually a lot more difficult than in terms of, like, young people, because one of the challenges is that they're fixated on that certain particular mindset, whereas the young people, they haven't actually fully developed.
Yeah, that's probably a massive thing. Like, I'm glad you mentioned mindset, actually, because it's probably one of the things that I love to work on. You know, and you know, certainly, yeah, like you talk about, you know, young people being a bit more willing to, certainly, I'll say, certainly with the young athletes that I've had, you know, that willing to listen and to really work on the mindset, you know, and understand that that self-talk and that self-belief is so massive, you know. Like, you know, the link to that, to self-esteem, the link to that to achievement, you know, the link to protective factors, you know, around having, you know, good self-belief and other people who believe in you is huge. But you know, to work on your mindset daily is something that everyone should be doing, you know. Like, it's a practice that it amazes me sometimes how few people actually work on their mind each day, and instead just get, you know, focused on so many other things. And you know, I'm an early riser and love getting up, and you know, I'm blessed enough to be near the beach, so I, you know, head down the beach each day and go through my little morning routine. But a lot of that is just that idea too of having quiet time to think, you know, or quiet time sometimes not to think, you know, and actually just I like to actually just switch off, and but you know, but also to spend time in gratitude, you know, like, which is you know, for me, something that I work on with, you know, the kids at school, and work on with my clients, and work on with, you know, my teams that I coach, is this idea of being grateful for what you do have, and looking for the good in your day. You know, so many of us focus on the stress in our life, you know, I say it at school all the time, like, you got to remember how blessed you are, not how stressed you are, and I think if people can work on their mindset with just little tricks to try and train themselves or retrain themselves, like to focus on the good things. We do a thing at home with the kids where we talk about our favourite part of the day, and it's basically just a gratitude practice. That they don't know that it's a gratitude practice. They just think it's talking about the good thing in their day, but it's all about trying to train them to think, one of the last thoughts they have each day is thinking about the good thing that happened in their day, rather than, the kid, like I've got 4-year-old twins, so the kid who wouldn't, share a toy or those kind of things, which can take so much of their time up, or, my 12-year-old who might have had a, bad lesson at school or whatever, but to try and focus on something good that happened, before you head off. And they're sometimes the best conversations we have.
Yeah.
And then it also forces me and my wife to actually sit there and do the same thing, to actually think about, well, what, like, we've actually got it pretty good, like we're doing all right, and this is something that's really good that's happening in our life today, and sharing that with each other obviously brings joy as well, because you're sharing the good things in your life, and when you share joy, it multiplies, so some little things to try and work on your mind, to try and set goals, and massive believer in obviously writing goals down and setting goals, but the next part of that is actually take action, and so many people have these massive dreams, one day I want to do this, or and I look at some of the people who have achieved in their life, and you can talk about 1,000 people, and I'm sure you know them too, footy players who have gone on, and very rarely does a player who doesn't do the work make it through, and it's the people who at 14 and 15 say, oh, Macca, I want to be an NRL player. It's like, well, mate, that's really nice, like, I want to be a millionaire, but what are we going to do, and I know we spoke earlier, like I posted about this week, but there's a kid who I'm thinking of who wanted to be an NRL player and was told he wasn't good enough by a few people, but I also saw that kid down at Ringrose Park, on a Tuesday and Thursday night after his training had finished and before mine had started, and he'd sit there and kick a ball for half an hour. He'd do defensive drills with his dad and his brother, and he's out there playing NRL now because he did the work, and he didn't just talk about it, he actually took intentional action, and that's probably one of my, key phrases at the moment is this idea of, taking intentional action, don't just go through the motions and actually pretend you want it, because every kid wants to be an NRL player, like look at where you grew up, Joshy, and I'd imagine there'd be very few people in your peer group who didn't want to be an NRL player.
Oh, 100%.
But how many of them actually took intentional action each day to actually achieve their goals, and not just say to their parents or their mates, I want to be an NRL player, but actually go out there and do something every day. And I look at the kids at school, same opinion, whether they want to, be an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor, a tradie, whatever it is, it's the kids who take intentional action each day on their goals that actually achieve it, I talk about, it's that big cliche in footy, the 1%ers.
Yeah.
But in saying that, like if you improve your life 1% each day, then by the end of the year, look at the increase in percentage that you've made in your life, like 365, percent, increase in your productivity or in your output or whatever it is you want to call it, because you've improved 1% each day.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take big things to achieve in life. It just takes consistent, intentional action. And I think that's probably one of the things that I've been really pushing, lately. I've started to coach a side down here where I live in Wollongong, and we've been talking about the fundamentals and doing the basics right, and it's the people who can do that right over and over again, who can catch and pass with their hands up and pass the right height, and who can hit and stick, and it's simple. Like footy's a simple game, and I think life's a simple game too, and we try to complicate it, and I think if we can just work on those actionable goals, take action on those goals each day, then there's no one in the world who can't achieve, and I think that belief that we can instill in ourselves, celebrate the small victories. When you achieve something, then celebrate it. Because you've done something awesome. So why would you not celebrate when you've achieved something? And so many people go through each day and achieve, and then just go to bed and get up the next day and go and do it again. And they're not thinking about the good things that are happening in their lives, and that focus is on the things that they're stressed about rather than the great things that are happening. And not everyone has a great life, but everyone can have a great life. I think. So we're all, fate, I suppose, decides where we're born and how we grow up. A lot of that's out of our control. But we can also control the controllables moving forward in order to make sure that we get what we want in life. And I'm not going to say everyone can be a millionaire or everyone can, be a doctor or a lawyer or, whatever it is. Not everyone can be an NRL player. Some people just don't have the skill, and will never have the skill, But, if you set yourself some achievable goals, then there's no doubt you can do it, and it's just intentional action each day, mate.
Yeah. Oh, man. That is amazing. And I think even too, what you were just mentioning is like, that I wanted to add on is like, for those out there that think to themselves that skill's going to get you there and the hard work isn't. If you're not going to be working hard now, you're not. It's not going to take too long for us to see the fruits of your skill. Like, I learned that growing up. For me, like a lot of people like. So the way that I play now, or when I was playing growing up, people thought I was always skillful, but it was the basics that I ended up getting right. Like your simple catch and pass. Like I'm at training. Like I was at training yesterday, and I was actually like questioning. I was like, how am I able to just do a quick catch and pass? Why is my hands always up? Like, why is it always in front? I'm like, man, it was the basics back in Paradays. All the hints like early catch, early pass, little things like that.
Mate, I remember sitting at training, and before training, like everyone used to, arrive early from school or whatever, and you'd be out the front of the gym there kind of thing. And I remember, Pod and Fieldsy just walking along and just, into us constantly about catch and pass and, and blokes just standing in straight lines. So basically just, 4 or 5 people in a straight line, just literally doing nothing other than standing still and catching and passing with their hands in the right position, moving their foot forward to make sure they're passing off the front foot and doing it over and over again. And it's one of the greatest things about the Parramatta system, it's just that skill, development, and I've been in a few different systems now, and I've worked at a few different clubs, been blessed enough to work at a few different NRL clubs, and still to this day, Parramatta has one of the best junior development systems I've ever seen. And I think sometimes I got other jobs because of the fact that I'd been in the junior development system at Parramatta, and that allows me to, I suppose, go and develop other players because I've been through that system and learned that way. So, like hard work, and I say it all the time, hard work's always rewarded, and I don't think, when you're a junior and you make the sides because you're bigger, faster, and can hit harder, that might get you through there when you're 14, 15, 16. And when you get to 19 and you're looking at 20s, mate, you need to have more than just speed, more than just, be big, because that's where skill catches up. And then you need to keep working on it too. It's probably one of the things that I learnt when I was coaching New South Wales Cup, and you're coaching, professional athletes who get, who miss out on the NRL squad that week, and they come back to you. And the best I ever saw were people who came back and worked on their game when they came back to us. They weren't ones who came and dropped their heads and thought, like I've been dropped from the side. I'm playing here in front of 200 people rather than playing in front of 15,000 at Paris Stadium, whatever. And they came back and worked on their own game. But not only that, they worked on the game of the people around them, so the ones who weren't full-time athletes, so we had probably the best example to give you, Joe Nullivow, who played, for South, Parramatta, Manly, won premierships at I think South and Manly, might have even played for the Warriors, Penrith as well, actually, now I think of it, and for New Zealand, and he came back the first year I was at Parramatta in 2008, and played. It was a regular first grader at Penrith and South, and came back to Parramatta and wasn't regularly playing first grade. But he made everyone in that team better, and made sure he pulled those, the young forwards aside, and tried to help them out, mate. And I learned off him that year, I'm the coach at the side, or the assistant coach at the side, and I'm learning off him all the time, because he's just, happy to share his knowledge and grow other people. And, they're the kind of people you want to be around. Often say the 5 people you hang around are the people you become, and it's it's written, and it's a well-known saying, but it's so true. If you want to improve your life, then look around at who you're hanging out with, and start to think to yourself, are these the kind of people I want to become? And if it's not, then you need to get a new circle. Was that you need to go, well, if these people aren't serving me, and if I can't serve them, so sometimes. You're the role model, you're the influence in that circle, but at other times you need them to pull you along and improve your life. And if you look around and the people you hang around the most aren't adding value to your life, then go find new people to hang around.
Yeah. That is totally on point. Like I even learned even in the footy scene, playing footy, like there was moments where I started to question because of the boys that I was with, because some of them, in terms of mindset, it just wasn't there. In terms of for me, I'm wanting to grow, become better, but it's a lot harder when you're having guys that are just wanting to play park footy, when you're wanting to actually aspire. So I even remembered, I think I was only 11 years old, and I was playing Division 2 at that time, and I was getting so comfortable. But then there was one time when I was playing Division 2, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to be playing. Yeah, and it was because of that. It was because of my association. It was because of the people. And it's funny because I learned at a young age that it's probably not good to be hanging around with guys that are just wanting to play park footy. It's like, no, I actually want to play real footy. And then I hit 12 years old, and then I ended up playing Division 1. And I was thinking to myself, I don't reckon I would have been where I'm at right now if I didn't make that decision, because I would have been more complacent. And it was all based on the people that I was surrounding myself with. As I started to surround myself with guys that are probably a lot more better than me, it either I had 2 choices. It was either I lift my game up, or I just go back to Division 2. And I was like, I don't want to go back. So I ended up just staying.
Yeah, it's just it's that challenge, around you, and it's something that I talked about even with just with my staff at school. That idea of. You need people to challenge you. You need people to kick you out of your comfort zone, and to hold you accountable. Quite often, so I coach young people on mindset, but also do some stuff with adults. Yeah, on a range of topics. But often people say, what do I need a coach in my life? Why would I have a coach? And it's that idea of. You need someone to pull you to a higher level, and you need someone to hold you accountable for the actions that you take. Because so often in life we're not held accountable. You can do the things you want to do these days in society, and unless you're breaking the law, you're not held accountable for it. So you can make some really poor decisions. You can, live a lifestyle that doesn't serve your purpose. But you end up being unhappy. Then. You don't have someone to hold you accountable. If you don't have, whether it be that circle of friends, or whether it be, a mentor or a coach, whatever it is, if you don't have those people who actually hold you accountable for your actions and actually challenge you to become a better person, then you don't grow, and, if you're not growing, you're dead already, so many of us, in society just go through the motions each day. We spoke about earlier, going through the motions, and don't actually try and get better in their lives, and don't try and, give something to the world, and, I suppose don't understand their purpose, and having a real clear, idea of what your purpose is, and trying to work that each day. I often say, people say at school all the time, and we do a topic called the search for meaning, and people, question, what's the purpose of life? And my response to that is always a life of purpose. If you live a life of purpose, and you're trying to do something to make, whether it be the world or the people around you a better place to live. And, I like to think about leaving a legacy for people, and knowing that, that my legacy will make the world a better place. Well, if you don't have people around you holding you accountable to that, like if I don't have people challenge me and saying, Aaron, what are you doing? Like what's going on? If I don't have, when I start coaching a new footy team, like you always take a coach, with you, and so recently, as I said earlier, just started a job down here with the Illawarra Steelers, and whenever I've gone to a new club, I've always taken one person with me, and the reason I do that is because I want that one person to be the person who actually challenges me.
Yeah.
Because so often in life, like especially like in those rep scenes and stuff, you have, if you're the head coach, people who just say yes to you, like, oh, that's a great idea, like, yeah, let's do that, and in actual fact, sometimes it's a really crap idea, and you need to say, actually, nah, you're wrong, or like you might say, oh, I want this player, in that position. Well, actually, no, like that's, he doesn't deserve it. He hasn't worked hard enough. And I looked at that year that we had you and we had, Baz as the coach.
Yep.
And mate, the best thing was that team, is that, we could have conversations with each other and say, well, actually, what, like, I don't agree with what you're saying there. And it was very respectful discussion around it. And same with the training stuff, I know you had Millsy on earlier, and big shout out to Millsy, who's beaten cancer, mate, and done some amazing life,
amazing,
just alone. But like we as a trainer, we took his judgment on things. If he said, Josh, he's been lazy in the gym, not doing his work, well then what, Josh doesn't play this week, like because you want to have people around you who tell you what's really going on, and who challenge you to be a better person, And same thing, like some of those players in that team who needed a kick sometimes, because as a 14, 15, or, you who played 2 years of Mats, coming second year, mate, at times there, you probably thought, well, I'm all that and a bag of chips and, this is easy for me. And looked at me, I'm the captain of the Harold Matthews side and all the rest of it. But but at times you also needed Josh, you actually, mate, like you need to lift your game here because you're not achieving that you need to, like you're better. So stop being lazy and actually start doing doing the hard work again. And when that happens, I know I think you had a pretty bad year of injuries actually. I was there, but when you have that person to hold you accountable and to challenge you, then you become a better person. And mate, who doesn't want to be a better person?
Oh man! Firstly, I want to say thank you for announcing that, because like, people don't realize, because, people ask me, like, what was the breaking point for you? It's like, I've had many breaking points, but I'll never forget that year. For me, that year, like, all I can say is I had a really good taste of humble pie that year. That was, oh, man. Because, like, just to be transparent for those out there, like, I went through a season where I ended up getting, like, the greatest accolades that a 15-year-old can get. I was still young. But the one thing I wasn't dealing with well was my mindset and, just being willing to humble myself, not externally, but internally. And that's probably the worst thing that you can do is have a bit of greed within you, because that's the one thing that a lot of people can't see. It was like, in the next few months and then like probably the next few years, that's when it starts to reap out. And I went through a season, like, I'm not going to, beat around the bush. Like that year I was like, yeah, I'm the man. And like, I've played Harold Matthews, and I can actually see in people, I can see that in people, but not just in people, but especially in players. Like, I can see it instantly, because it's like, I know what you're going through. Why? Because I've gone through it. I've done it myself. And like, I guess that's why I ended up getting so much respect and honor for you guys, for the trainers and the coaches. Because actually, like, at the time, I felt very upset. I felt like, what the heck, what's going on? But they were actually teaching me something. They was actually teaching me. It was more than just footy. It was actually life in general, and like, I only realized a couple of years later. But yeah, oh man, that actually gave me memories. I was like, man, like, that's really good. I needed that.
That's the massive thing. And like you talk about those lessons that you learn, and Josh, mate, like, if I look back on you as a 15-year-old kid, mate, then like there were no doubts that you could be something really, really, really massive in terms of your rugby league playing. I won't say not something massive, because I think you talk about those life lessons. What you're doing now, just shows the man that you've become because of the lessons you learned, through your childhood, through your playing, and being a success isn't always being a footy player, but learning lessons in life that you can take, and I know Baz is the same, in terms of his coaching philosophy is very much about, if you leave our team at the end of the year a better person, then I'm happy, yes, if you go on and achieve in rugby league, then that's awesome. But if you leave this season as a better person, then our job's done, and I think, Joshy, without saying too much, mate, I think you left that year a better person, I think, the next few years for you continue to show you becoming a better person, mate. I think, from memory, left Para, I think and I think I was lucky enough to take on the SG ball side the year after that, and I think you went over to St. George. That's with a few of the other boys as well, and look, they're lessons that you learn, because if you had thought back 18 months ago when you were winning the Harold Matthews competition, with that older side, and you probably think, I'm never leaving Parramatta. This is where my future is. But life has a way of, I suppose, giving us the things that we need at certain times in our lives. And then we can choose two ways to go. We can grow from it, or we can go backwards and not take those lessons on and choose a very different path, mate. And I think, I think what we're doing right now is showing that you chose a path that's pretty special, mate.
Yeah, 100%. Like, honestly, I'm always grateful, even still to this day. But there's moments that that season for me, like I share this with a lot of people. 2014 for me was probably like one of the toughest years that I had as a whole. It wasn't just footy; it was also life in general. And so you can see the amount of things that are happening in my life in that one specific year. And it's like, it's either it's going to make me or break me. And it actually made me, because I don't think I'd be where I'm at right now. Even like doing things like a podcast right now, building confidence and just getting myself out there. I wouldn't be where I'm at right now without, lessons that I've gone through life. So, I appreciate it. I actually really appreciate you sharing that. That was a right hook for me. I was like, oh, I didn't expect that. Nah, it's all good. I love it though. I love it. Yeah. I love uncertainty, and I love real spontaneous talks. But what I want to do right now is actually I want to get more into your story. The purpose of this was to get your story out there, and like I want people to so my goal at the moment is to be like, I want people to come in thinking they know, like Macca or Aaron McDonald, but I want people to leave knowing like I've actually know more about Aaron McDonald than what I see. And so I guess what I want to do right now is I want to ask you, it's probably going to, like for me, I'm like, it's probably going to get deep now. But my question to you is, in the life that you've been living, on this earth, what's one biggest setback that you've had in your life?
Tough question. Probably, more recently, mate, it was probably the passing of my father. We couple of years ago, he got really sick, and I was actually at a Catholic youth festival, believe it or not, and over in Adelaide, and got a phone call to say that he had a heart attack, and flew home pretty quickly. I was over there with school and flew home pretty quickly, and then we probably faced about a year and a half of probably a real illness, I suppose, with him. And my dad was my hero, is my hero. I won't say is my hero. He was my first footy coach. He was the guy who I thought, and I think most young boys probably think this of the dad. He was my Superman. And it was really, I suppose, tough. Like my dad was a bit old school, in terms of he wasn't a massive talker. I often joked about when I was in America, I'd often ring home, and Dad would answer the phone, and I'd say, hey, Dad, how you going? And he's like, I'll just get your mum for you, mate. And I'm like, mate, I haven't spoken to you for 2 months, I tried we can have a chat. But he was, very much, that idea of, he led by example rather than his words, and I think that was a pretty massive lesson for all three of us boys in the family. But that was shattering, like to lose, someone who had such an influence on my life, and also challenged me in the way that, yeah, I suppose like every day, and not just him, but my family, like my, one of my big goals in life is to make sure that my family are proud of me, and are proud of what I do. So, and I often think, like when I'm in a situation, what would Dad do, in this situation? And as I said, like he's the reason why I coach footy. He was my first footy coach, and so he'd often that was great. He'd come when I was with New South Wales Cup at Parramatta. So we had a pretty star-studded lineup of players there, and I remember being on the sideline one day, my phone rang, and it was Dad telling me to put a player on, and I'm like, mate, I've got this coaching gig, buddy. It's all right, but he always, I suppose, like thought that he had that influence in my life and wanted to be a part of it. So, so that was pretty shattering, mate. And I suppose the other real challenge that we've faced in our life, as a family, is I spoke about Lauren's mental health condition earlier, which is that's been huge for us to try and I suppose balance it and get it right, and I'm very lucky that Lauren's very happy for me to share her story, and I do it quite often, and she's happy to share it herself. But we faced some pretty dark days, in terms of making decisions to put her in hospital a couple of times, and I said earlier, like Hamish is a 2-year-old, like lost his mum for quite a few months where she went off and went to hospital, and then even with the twins as well. It was one of the big risks I suppose we took when we were talking about having kids again, was that idea of, well, what happens if Lauren suffers with postnatal again, and unfortunately it did happen, but I think at times too it's made me a stronger person. Certainly made Lauren a stronger person. And I suppose the other big challenge we have, and I don't know if you'd call it a challenge, because I see it as a massive blessing, but our oldest boy Hamish is on the autism spectrum. So he's a young boy, and I know you had I think you had the guy from Modability on one of your podcasts.
Yeah, Steve Dresler. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I see like young Dean Madison, who does a fair bit of work from him, and Ryan used to as well, mate, in his early days, and yeah, so we got a young boy who offers, I suppose, his own, whether you want to call it a challenge or challenging behaviour, I suppose, at times. And he's an absolute genius of a kid. He's really, really intelligent, and but the challenges that come with that, I suppose, are him learning how to navigate life, and us learning how to navigate life with him. Because like one of my greatest goals, dreams, visions, I suppose, as a dad, was to see my young fella play footy. I always had that idea of, I'm an awesome footy coach, so my kid's going to be a superstar, and I'm going to coach him, going through the ages, and go on and watch him play NRL one day. And Hamish will never, or I shouldn't say never, but he's not someone who enjoys, like physical contact. Not someone who is ever going to, run around a footy field at this point in his life. As a 12-year-old, I can't see it happening. And we did it one year. I think the year before I came over to Para, Hamish was under. He's a 5-year-old playing under sixes, so playing that year up, because we wanted to get him into footy as soon as we could, and I was coaching at the Sydney Roosters at the time, so I was travelling to Sydney a fair bit, and so Lauren used to take him to footy, and I missed a lot of his games because I was coaching up with the Roosters, and then I went and watched him play one day, and I love Hamish to death, mate. He's the funniest kid in the world, and he was his favourite show at the time was Octonauts, and he was just pretending to be a little octonaut at the back of the thing, and the ball was 100 metres away, and every other kid was running around the ball, but it's just not something that interests him, like he's got other interests, and as I said, he's a really smart kid. He's into a lot of other things, but as I suppose as a male, as a footy coach, to have my firstborn son, I had these I suppose visions of what it would be to be a dad, mate, and I'm blessed because it's so much more than that, like he's just an amazing boy that offers so many other gifts, and he may not be the footy player that I thought I wanted, but it's he's more than I ever thought I wanted from a kid, like he's an unbelievable little boy who's going to achieve great things in his life. even though he has what some people would term a disability. I think it's so much more than, mate, he has this great gift that that other people, don't get to experience. So they're probably things that have been challenges for us in our lives. But I'm very much, I suppose, an optimist, and I think with every challenge comes an opportunity to do something different. And so with the challenges that we faced, like if you look at Lauren's mental health, well, that's given me an opportunity to be a voice for those who have mental health. When I look at Hamish and his autism, it's given me an opportunity to see the world through a different set of eyes, mate, because he sees the world very differently. Things aren't, sometimes things are very black and white. You can be quite literal. Even things like pull your socks up and pull your head in, or things like that we say quite often. As a young boy, if we told him to pull his head in, then he'd quite literally, pull his head into his shirt, and but it's given us an opportunity to see the world in a different way, and it's taught me to be a better person, and that's probably the greatest gift out of it all, is that all these challenges that we talk about having in life, like if it wasn't for some of these things happening, then I certainly wouldn't be the person I am today, it's a challenge to have a wife with a mental health issue, it's a challenge to see her suffering so much and knowing that you can't do anything about it, other than be there. It's a challenge to see someone who was quite active and sporty and outgoing when we first started dating and got together, to see her going through those depths of depression, where you don't want to get out of bed, you don't want to do anything, and you can't snap out of it. And that idea that, why doesn't she just, go and do something for herself? Well, because she physically can't, and a lot of people don't understand that about mental health, and I think, that's been a challenge, like, without a doubt, to get up and go and put on the face at school, or the face as a footy coach, and to, pretend that everything's going great, when actual fact, I'm got my phone on me at footy training because I'm worried that if the phone's going to ring, I'm going to have to go and do something, because I don't know, whether she's going to be all right for that, 2 hours that I'm gone, but also trying to have faith in her that, you got this and you can do this yourself. And so that's been a challenge, but it's also, as I said, given me the opportunity to talk about it, to learn more about mental health, so that I can be a voice for those people who sometimes can't be a voice for themselves, so I said the same thing with Hamish and his autism, it's given me an opportunity to learn more about autism, and probably maybe a better teacher, because now I understand those kids a bit more, and when those kids are having those meltdowns, or those days where things just aren't going right, and you think that that one comment you said has set them off, and you think, well, why are you so upset about one little thing that I said? But it's probably been a build up of the whole day.
Yep.
Eventually, that's that one thing that's cracked. And whether you're autistic or not, mate, sometimes you just need people to care for you and be kind to you, and I think that's what he teaches me each day, is to be kind, because he's got the most, the biggest heart in the world. He started up a brownie business a few weeks ago because he wants to buy a Nintendo Switch. So he's an entrepreneur, mate. At 12 years old, he's starting up his own business, and he made $100 I think the first weekend he did it, which was amazing. Like he just went out there, and family and friends bought the brownies for him, but having a conversation with him a few days later, he said, "Oh, Dad, I want to do it again." I'm like, "Oh, mate, of course, we'll help you out." And he goes, "Oh, and I want to donate like half the money to charity."
Man.
Wow, where does a 12-year-old kid get the idea that he wants to help other people? The initial goal was to make money to buy a Nintendo Switch, and all of a sudden he's gone, well, actually I've made more money than I thought I would, so I need to give it to someone else. That's a proud moment as a dad, and in terms of, you often hear that autistic kids don't have sympathy or empathy, but they do, they're amazing individuals. You just got to, break through those barriers sometimes to see the person who's inside, because they're just like any other kid.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. Like, thank you so much, Aaron, for sharing. Like, I'm getting touched by it, just by listening and like just it's so amazing that for someone like yourself, that's gone through so much setbacks. Losing your father, and then with your wife, your wife, going through depression and like having to constantly go to hospital visits and certain things like that, and then even just having your son be diagnosed with autism. It's amazing to see that you're still pushing through, and it's amazing when you have someone like yourself, Aaron, going through the trials and actually pushing through. Because looking at you, I'm like, I had no clue. Like, for me being a footy player under your wing, it's like, like I would have no clue whatsoever. And I guess that's why, for me, as being a podcast host, this is the reason why I don't take stories for granted. I don't. I'll never take these stories for granted. I never. When I'm talking to someone like yourself, I'm getting impacted. A lot of people question me like, like, what's the impact in the one? It's like, well, if you want to know exactly who's getting impacted, it's you're probably thinking that it's you as a listener, but it's not just you. It's a special guest, and it's myself. Like, we're all getting impacted, but we're all just getting impacted in a different way. And so I want to say thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. Sharing your setback. I know for some people it's not easy. It's not easy to share that. And for me, just listening, I'm like, man, I don't know what I'll do if I was in your position. And I'm so grateful that you shared it.
No, I suppose I mentioned earlier that idea of, to build relationships, you need to be vulnerable.
Yes.
And I think look, like you call it a challenge, but I don't know whether, I often say, like, I don't think my life has been a challenge. Like, I've had things I want in my life, without a doubt. And I think everyone has a story. Like, there's no one out there right now that doesn't have some story.
Yeah.
And has it been, and I know why you talked about it as a setback and why you talked about it as a challenge, because for some people it might be, but everyone's going through stuff. Like, we often talk about it at school, and and even with footy. Like, a kid turns up and you think they've got a bad attitude, and they're what's wrong with you today, that kind of thing. But who knows what's going on at home? Who knows what's going on in their life? And like you said, you turned up at footy training and didn't know what was going on in my life. But, mate, how many times did I know what was going on in your life? So, you might have a day where, like, you're a bit off at training or whatever, and we're thinking, well, Josh has been lazy. And, whereas actually, in fact, like, Josh has maybe just had, the worst day of his life, at that point in time. Doesn't want to say anything because he's around footy people, and, he's got to be the tough guy and the captain and all the rest of it. But actually could be struggling with some massive things behind the scene, and it's building that trust amongst people and being vulnerable with each other so that we can learn that. Because it's funny how many times you walk past someone who and just go, oh, how you going? And they go, okay, how are you? Okay. And you keep walking, when in actual fact, neither of you are okay. But you need to be willing to, asked you, are you okay? Day was the other day, and they talked about that theme of there's more to say after are you okay? And it's so true, like you got to dig deeper, and when you see, I just talk about it from my perspective. When I see a kid at school who, gives me some attitude, who might not usually give me attitude, or a kid at footy who, just doesn't seem to be, quite where he normally is, then that's when you need to dig deeper. That's when you need to do more than just ask, are you okay? Because everyone has a story. Everyone has something going on in their life. And, whether they see it as a challenge or not, like to me, like, I don't see my life as a challenge. Like, I see it as a massive blessing, but unless you ask the follow-up questions, which you did, you don't just actually hear that, because, if people ask me what my life is like, I'm going to tell them how good it is. That's the way that I think, that's just the way that I have trained myself, like my mindset. We talk about mindset, I've built my mindset to look at the good things in life, and there's been some things up there that, might not be perceived as being good, but they've made me the person I am. And the challenge, just challenges, like I see as that opportunity to grow each day, and if Lauren didn't have, bipolar depression, if Hamish didn't have autism, then, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Like, I wouldn't be the dad that I am, as a dad, I had to learn very, very quickly, from a young age that, or, you know, for Hamish's young age, that, you know, that things that normal dads did, I might not be able to do, you know. So how can I build that connection with a kid who, for a long period of time, didn't want affection, you know, didn't want to touch people, you know, and, you know, wouldn't look you in the eye, you know, wouldn't say goodbye to people when we left places, because he, you know, had this, condition, I suppose, that you know, didn't let him do the things that other kids would do. You know, like, so you go in the park and you'd see kids playing with other kids, and he'd never wanted to do that. You know, like, so I had to learn very quickly how to be a different dad. You know, and that's made me a better person. You know, and it's made me a better dad for the twins who came along, you know, 8 years later. You know, like, I'm a better dad because of, you know, the fact that Hamish was blessed with autism. You know, and that's, you know, like, that's the way I look at things. You know, like, I'm a better teacher, I'm a better human being, I'm a better football coach because of the things that have happened in my life, not the challenges that have happened in my life. You know, like, so it's where those two paths you can choose earlier on. You know, and I think I chose that path of looking at things in a positive manner. You know, and that's allowed me to become the person that I am.
Yeah, honestly, I can see that 100% in your life. And I guess just a follow-up question I'd love to ask you, Aaron. You know, knowing that you mentioned about the setbacks, you like you mentioned about your father, you know, losing your father, and you were in Adelaide at the time. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, when we first found out, so when we first found out where he was sick, I was in Adelaide. Yeah, he then had another heart attack on Christmas Day a year later, and then. You know, we thought we'd lose him quite a few times in the next probably week and a half. And mate, he's a fighter, you know, and he dug deep for another 4 months, I think it was. He dug deep for another 4 months, and yeah, it was a couple of days before Anzac Day, where so Dad was a return veteran a couple of days before Anzac Day, where he eventually passed away. You know, and you know, once again blessed in the way that, you know, he, fell asleep one night and didn't wake up the next day.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, probably. I know I wouldn't say probably. It was heartbreaking for Mum, obviously, and heartbreaking for all of us. But yeah, that was you had a question there. I don't know what it was, but go for it.
Yeah. So knowing that, you know, you ended up losing, you know, like your father, and then, you know, from your father to your wife was, you know, going through her own trials, and that was affecting you. Then even Hamish, you know, just him having autism, it was like, you know, for you, it's like you had to, you know, pretty much adapt in terms of being a father. My biggest question to you is, what was for you the setup? What was the one thing that you had done? Because I can sense that there was something in common that you had done in those particular you know, events that you had. But what was like probably like what you'd say the biggest the setup that the thing that actually helped you?
Yeah, I suppose there's probably a few things there. You know, growing up in a team sport environment, you know, and knowing. Also doing, I suppose, a PE teaching degree, so a health science degree where you learn about how things work and how the mind works, and then a lot of self-development. You know, like, I've always been fascinated with self-development and you know, personal development and reading. I'm a massive reader. You know, spend a lot of my time reading and trying to improve, you know, resilience, mindset, you know, life in general. You know, and establishing practices that serve me, you know. Like, so I talked about my early rising, you know, and that idea of practicing gratitude, you know, for me, spending time in prayer, you know, so, you know, I am quite happy to share the fact that, you know, that I pray each morning and that I pray each night, you know, and you know, there are days where I probably pray 50 times in between, you know. You know, so you know, so I suppose, you know, having a faith and having a really good support system, you know. And so, I talk about my family, you know, in terms of how blessed I was as a kid to have the family around it. But to this day, you know, like my mum is someone who I talk to, you know, almost daily. You know, as a nearly 44-year-old man, you know, my mum is, you know, a person who I still need and rely on, and that's never going to change. Like my brothers, I talk about them and the bonds that we have, and there's one who lives near me that I'm particularly close to, and having that support system to get you through things, and knowing that you can't do it by yourself. That's something that I think people need to understand, and you see the people who suffer sometimes, and they're trying to do all these things by themselves. It's like you need to ask for help, or you need your people around you to know you need help, and that's probably what those 5 people you hang around we talked about earlier, that idea of, if I see a friend struggling, then I need to, I love there's that charity organisation, Reach Out, and I love to talk about reaching in, so my thing is reaching into people, don't ask people to reach out to you, because most times they won't, but you got to reach into people and actually go, you know what, like I know things aren't going great for you right now, because I can see in the way that you are, you've changed, your personality, you're not the same person, so I'm going to reach into you and try and help you. And I've got people for me who do that, who go, you know what, like, yeah, Matt is struggling a bit at the moment, so I'm going to, ask those 5 questions. I'm going to, offer some help and to have that support network, like to know that, there's someone who might, for me, there might someone who might, say, hey, come around for dinner tonight, because, the last thing you want to do is cook dinner or whatever when things are going wrong, like say Lauren was in hospital or whatever, and, just like, what, I'll save you the hassle of cooking dinner. Come around here tonight and just, sit down and, we'll look after the kids for half an hour so you can just chill out, For me, I said, like, I get up each morning, go to the beach and have probably half an hour to myself, and that's the setup for my day. The way that I position myself each day is this idea that, if I set up my day and, win the morning, win the day, all that kind of stuff, it's the, I suppose the routines you put in place, and I talked about, your habits are defined by your identity, or the other way around, your identity, defines your habits, and setting myself up, to do some things like that, which is probably, sometimes I think it's a bit selfish at times. I take myself off each morning for half an hour, but I do it at a time when the kids are still asleep and Lauren's usually still in bed, and get up and go down and watch the sunrise at the beach and marvel at, mate, I do it every day. Like I sit there and marvel at God's nature and just go, like, how is this random? Like people have talked about the fact that, there is no God. Well, come down and watch the sunrise with me and tell me that, so it's, just setting yourself up with some really good practices and routines that serve you, and then having that support network, like it's essential, you can't make it on your own, and people need to try and stop doing that because it doesn't work. And I think the suicide rate in Australia will tell you that. The suicide rate amongst males will tell you that. You can't do it on your own. Don't try and do it on your own. Seek help. And if you can't seek help, then you need to have built the trust and friendships around you so that other people can reach in and say, we need to help you.
Yeah. Oh man, 100%. And like, just add on to what you were saying, I love the fact that you had mentioned, things like, you waking up in the morning, like your morning routine, doing a bit of self-care before you start caring for other people. Because, one thing that I've learned, just through my journey is that, I see myself like a cup, and it's like, as much as I can be filled and I'm pouring into other people's cup, it's like, who's pouring into me? And for me, it's like, for me, filling my cup is waking up early before anyone else and doing a bit of me time. And it's funny because some people may look at it like, oh, that looks a bit selfish. It's like, well, at the end of the day, what I see as selfish is probably different to the way you see it. I see this as self-care. This is me like caring for other people so much that I'm caring for myself, so then they don't get impacted by it, which I love the most.
Yeah, if you carry those burdens around and don't do anything with them, and I often talk about the third space. I don't know if you've heard of it, like the third space between, work. We talk about the space between work and home. It's we call it the third space. And you need to get rid of your crap before you get home. Like if I've had a tough day at work, whatever, then that's sweet. I can have a tough day at work. But by the time I get home, well, I need to focus on something new, and that's my family. So there's nothing wrong with having stress in your life. Like stress is actually a good thing for you.
It is, yeah.
Help you achieve, but at some stage you need to be willing to let go of it, actually, and you see it sometimes, like the footy player who taps the sign as he goes out to play the game where he's switching on, and at the same time you got to switch off, so when you're coming home, you got to, maybe tap the door as you go in and just go, well, I'm leaving it behind now and I'll start tomorrow because now I need to focus on, something else or myself, Josh, it's massive, mate, that idea of self-care, because you can't give something you don't have. Yeah. And we spoke about earlier that idea of, and you said it, when you do a podcast, it's like you're giving, in your podcast, you're just going out to however many people, but you're actually getting as well, receiving and unless you have enough to give, and you don't have enough to give unless you replenish, take care of yourself. I'll use, Jesus as an example, mate. Before anything big happened in his life, he went and prayed by himself. I know you're a man of faith. If you look at all the stories, in the Gospels, before he does anything big, he goes away and retreats.
Yeah, 100%.
People, I think people miss that message sometimes.
Yeah.
You need to retreat. You need to stop. You need to take time for you because you can't go and do anything unless you're prepared for it, and I think that's the, you talk about that self-care and the setup. Well, the setup is looking after myself as much as I can. And look, there are days where I don't want to do it. There are days where I can get up at 5 o'clock.
100%.
But I know that if I don't do it, then it's not going to serve me. It's not going to help me. So, mate, I'd love to sleep in until 7 o'clock and get up and roll out and go to bed.
Yeah, same.
But you know what? I'm going to be a different person. And when it happens, like the days where, where I might not get up and get to the beach, or it's been a couple of times where I'm away from home, so I can't just duck down the beach, and I'm a different person. It doesn't feel the same, and I know that I'm not prepared as well as I want to be. Like an athlete. If you're not prepared to play well, then you don't play well. If I'm not prepared to go out and be Aaron, be Macca, depending on where I'm going, be Mr. McDonald, if I'm not prepared, or to be dad, to be a husband, if I don't prepare myself and put myself in a better position to do that, then I'm serving no one, mate. No one gets the best of me. They just get the rest of me, and that's not good enough.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I guess that's one thing that a lot of people need to understand. Like for those that are listening, these are like the little things that we do in terms of our own personal development, or self-development and growing. And this could be the defining factor for you. For those out there, you may be suffering from a heartbreak, or whatever you're going through right now. These are the reasons why we get people like Aaron on board, because as much as he has a story, and as much as he has like he's experienced one of his greatest setbacks, the one thing that we're always focused on is also the setups, the moments where he actually went through the valley lows and then end up coming back up. And so I guess coming to the end of this podcast, because we've gone through a lot, and I'm actually getting so filled up right now, and so G'd up. The last thing I want to talk about before we finish is where is it that Aaron's going to go from here? I know. Did you want to share a bit about what you're doing right now? In terms of life?
I suppose, look, where to from now, mate? I don't know. It's a question I ask myself often. Mate, I love my life. I love teaching. I love coaching rugby league. I love my coaching, my little side hustle, I suppose you want to call it. Where I coach, adults and young people to improve their lives. I often think about speaking in schools, and getting out there and sharing that message to a wider audience. I set a goal for myself to try and impact 10,000 young people. That's something that I know that I need to go bigger, in order to do that. But look, I suppose I'm satisfied, in a way with what I'm doing. But there's always that urge to do more as well. It's a tough one because, you can do so much in a school, and you can impact lives, in such a great way. but you're also, missing out on some things because you're in a school, and I think sometimes, look, I really want to, branch out and do some things. Look, at the end of the day, for me, what's in the future, I suppose, is, being the best dad that I can each day, and looking after, those three gorgeous little boys that I've got, mate. Doing the best for my family each day. Trying to be the best that I can there and give them the best of me. And then the rest of it. Well, look, if I can continue to coach, then I'll be pretty happy in terms of rugby league. I enjoy that, and I'm blessed enough to be in a position to get some good coaching gigs. I suppose I do a little bit of stuff with Malta as well, and certainly I've got some goals around where I want Malta to finish in the next couple of years in regards to their football and developing that nation. Look, Joshy, if I could get out there and get my message to more people to help people improve their lives, mate, on a bigger scale, then I wouldn't say no to it.
Yeah.
I've just got to, I suppose, find that balance between. I love my teaching job. I get to go to school each day and help people. I get to share my faith. And I get to try and set people up for what I hope is going to be a really prosperous future. And it's hard to walk away from that. I know deep down that to do some of the things I want to do, I might have to change careers at some stage, but I'm not quite ready to let go of the relationships that you build in a school, and the impact you can have there. Certainly Amplify Coaching Collective, mate. My business is going to, I'm continually working on that on the side and putting hours into that when I can. But I also know that right now there's other things that need my attention, such as my family. And my teaching job that I said I love. When the time is right, mate, then Amplify will amplify, and it will. And I know that when that happens, mate, I'll be out there delivering a message to young people in the world in order to make sure that they can improve their lives, and be given the resources and tools they need to be the best person they can be. So for me, that's, it's there. I know it's there. It'll be trying to decide what time to really, I've been going, probably for about 2 years, as on the side, and look, I'm really happy with what I'm doing. I'm helping young people along the way. A bit like yourself, mate. There's different times where I do some online things, and I've got enough clients that I'm not unhappy. I'm helping people out, and for me, that's what it's about. It's not about being rich. It's not about making huge amounts of money. It's about helping people out, and however I can do that, mate, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, amazing. Oh man, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I was able to have to take out your time, because one thing I believe in is time is valuable. And, for you to take out your time to jump on the podcast, and even just to share your story and where you are, and even where you're heading, it's amazing, because I already know that there are people getting impacted, including myself. A lot of people don't realize that. For me, being I get the massive honor and blessing to be a host, because I get to fully listen in and listen on and ask the certain questions. And I guess this is the behind the scenes of why I do what I do. But yeah, I'm getting tremendous value, and I do believe that the people that are listening are getting value too. And I guess just one little question I'd love to ask you, and then we'll wrap it up, is there may be people going through something similar to you, in terms of the setbacks that you had, or there's probably someone listening on the podcast. On this podcast episode that are like, I completely resonate, with Macca or Aaron McDonald. And so I guess one thing I would like to ask is there any encouragement or anything you'd like to say that's on your heart right now that you'd like to share to those that are listening?
I suppose for me, it's never be afraid to talk, and never be afraid to be vulnerable. Human life is based on connection and community, and I think, what people need to realise is that by being a part of community, by connecting with people, you're only going to enrich your life, And I think, don't be afraid to ask for help. And I said it earlier, don't be afraid to reach into someone else if you think they need help. Because people want connection.
Yes.
People thrive on connection. And if you look at the stuff that's happening now in the world, with COVID, mate, and you look at Melbourne and the suicide rates in Melbourne are killing more people than the diseases.
Yeah.
And what's that say is it says people need connection. So the encouragement I would have, for people is just connect with others. Get out there and connect with others. If you can't connect with others, in person, then find someone online that you connect with. Maybe not a bride from mail order in Thailand or something, but find connect with, that isn't trying to rip you off or whatever. But we need to build communities, and this is probably one of the great things you're doing is building a community right now. We need to build communities, and we need to reach in to people and help people. And if you are feeling like things are going down and things aren't working for you, then there's a way out, and there's always a way out. Who you are now doesn't need to be who you are in the future. And we spoke about, I think, at the very start, that idea of acting intentionally. You can make choices in your life with intention to be better. If you can make choices in your life with the intention of being a kinder human being, then things will work for you. Things will start to look positive. And that attitude of gratitude. If you are struggling right now, then tonight before you go to bed, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And then tomorrow do it, and then do it again. And then in 3 or 4 weeks' time, you're going to start noticing that you spend your days looking for the good in your life, because you train your mind to look for good rather than bad. And that's just a simple way. There's research all over the world, mate. It isn't just Macca talking some crap. This is actually research stuff that works. And that idea of positive psychology and looking for the good in life. And as I said earlier, maybe sometimes focus on how blessed you are rather than how stressed you are. That's it from me, mate. Now I'm done.
He's dropping the mic. Oh, man. Honestly, I'm getting tremendous value, and I know that those that are listening on this episode are getting value too. And so, Aaron, honestly, I'm so grateful that you took out the time. Thank you so much for jumping on board. For those out there, I know that there are people out there listening to this right now that probably want to know more about you or potentially wanting to connect with you. So, what's the best way that people can connect with you?
Mate, probably the good old socials. So Amplify Coaching Collective on both Facebook and Instagram. I've also got a website, but there's probably if you want to connect with me on a more regular basis, then certainly the social media. So Facebook and Instagram, Amplify Coaching Collective. If you search it, mate, or search my name, Aaron McDonald, then I'm sure you find it. But yeah, so I think they're probably the 2 easiest ways to connect with me. And then, I spend my day, or I won't say spend my day, but I post each day about positive things and about, I suppose, Josh, you probably seen, I usually throw a quote and a little story to go with it just to try and, teach a lesson each day. And if people want to jump on and follow, then, I hope there's some value in there for them that they can reflect a bit each day and think about their life. But look, that's probably the best way. But I just want to also say to you, mate, I'm actually honoured to be on this. This is, mate. I've been, as I said, I've been following you for a bit now. In terms of when I first saw it come up, and I thought, this is awesome. Here's Josh, you're doing something, amazing. And mate, you need to celebrate those small victories too, because you're doing some amazing work. And that idea of impacting the one, mate. You're doing it. You're doing it each day, and you need to take some time to be proud of yourself. So there's a big rap from me, mate, for all the work you're doing. And I love listening. I'm a podcast listener, mate, when I'm in the car, and I look forward to your episodes dropping, mate, each week, or during that COVID time, mate, when they were dropping, twice a week, it was awesome, mate. So keep putting your message out there, mate, because people need community, and people need to know that there's someone who believes in them and can just add a bit of positive vibe to their life, mate. So thanks for having me on board today.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it heaps. Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words too. For me being I'm a wordsy guy, so even just me listening to that, man, I'm so filled, and so yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it heaps, and so for those out there that are wanting to connect with Aaron, if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be down in the links down below. But if you're listening to this through Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please check out our Instagram page. That's our main platform, and he'll be under our followings page there, and it will also be promoted on there too, and we'll have his links on there, and that will be cool. But other than that, that is all that we got for this episode. Aaron, again, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next one.